All right, welcome to this episode of Meet the Leadership. This time we are here with Michael Bolton, previous community manager for Gary's Mod and currently the event manager for Counter-Strike. Hello Bolton, how's it going?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good.
All right, Bolton, since you've been in EGO for a while, I'm sure there's many answers you can give to this question, but if you had to pick just one, what would your favorite EGO memory or moment be?
Probably all my favorite EGO moments were anytime I got to spend with Pro Combat or Leighton. He was just a fun and goofy guy, and I can't name a single particular moment, but every moment with him was just a roller coaster because he was just a wild human being.
Definitely a name known throughout EdgeGamers, and I'm sure lots of people have similar feelings. It's good to hear that he left such an impact on people. Question that I'm sure is on a lot of people's minds: why the name Michael Bolton?
Not to name drop anyone, but better Nerf Aurelia. Used to be an EGO admin a long time ago. And in the galaxy far, far away, we had a Counter-Strike Sources jail server, which is where I started out playing. And I'm not very creative with names, so my very first name is a mixture of numbers and letters, and it was awful. No one could ever figure out what it said, so it was just a horrible name. But I was playing in the jail server. Nerf Aurelia was doing a trivia day. Was going one by one down the line. Got to me, looked at me for a second, and she goes, I have no idea how to say your name. So, if at all possible, the name change. I don't want to try and pronounce that. And I was like, okay, I got you. And at the time, I was listening to music, and I was going through just a playlist of Disney songs on YouTube. And Go the Distance from Hercules came up, and I found out that it was sang by Michael Bolton. And I was like, you know what? That's a name that I could just use for a while. So it was originally supposed to be a placeholder, but that's how I got the name, and then I started to get recognized, so it just kind of stuck.
So, as someone who's been at every level of leadership, well, with the exception of the board of directors, what advice do you have for members that have a long-term goal of maybe becoming leadership within EdgeGamers? And any words of warning for those members as well?
Well, my words of wisdom that I'd give is don't try to be leadership. When you try for it, it makes it very obvious. And if you're very obviously trying to get into leadership, you're probably gonna, send off the wrong vibe. But even before I was leadership, I never intended to get leadership. Honestly, I loved helping out. But before getting leadership, I was helping the PSC by doing invasions and training people how to do those invasions properly, and make them fun. I was running the recruiting team and the server filling team for Gary's Mod. I was helping out with events and admin training stuff in Gary's Mods on the side. And on top of all that, I was helping out Maserati at the time with the TF2 events and anything that he needed. So, I was just trying to be a helpful human being, and then I got leadership. So, if you have a long-term goal and you want to make a change, and that's your reason for pursuing leadership, you don't need leadership to do it. You can make a change and help out at any level, no matter what. So that'd be my word of advice. But any warnings to give would probably just be, if you ever get to a point where you are welcomed into leadership, it's not as much fun as it seems. I know that sounds horrible to say, considering I've been in leadership for years at this point, but there's a lot of work and stress and dedication that goes into it, and it's quite a hassle sometimes. It's not always the most fun position to be in, because you do have to make a lot of tough decisions that sometimes make you out to be a bad person. So I'd say just don't focus on it. if it's a goal of yours, that's great, but ultimately your goal should just be to help out and be active. Do as much as you can. And don't worry about promotions or anything like that.
Great advice. Yeah, I think one of the things we've always heard various members of leadership say, especially at the community management level, is you don't have to be in leadership to want to like be a leader and to actually help out. So good to hear that again. So on to a fun question here. What's your favorite joke?
I am known very well for one joke in particular, which I first heard from an older member who went by the name Magus. But I adopted it, made it my own, and I love it. I love telling it. So it's a little bit of a long joke. Buckle up. When I was in school, my dad took me to the mall and bought me this brand new watch because I was doing really well. My grades were improving. And so we just had a fun day, you know, out and about. While we were out there, we decided to get some food. And we got to the restaurant. I ordered, you know, started eating, but I took my watch off and set it on the table because I wasn't used to wearing something around my wrist anyway, especially something that heavy. Just kind of got in my way a little bit, so I just took it off to be a little bit more comfortable while we were eating. And then, you know, we finished up, left the restaurant, and then I realized that I left my brand new watch on the table. So we go back in to get it. We're looking around and can't find it. We asked the waitress, the busboy, who was like cleaning tables nearby, if they had seen it. They hadn't. And we were sitting right next to the bar area of this restaurant, and there was a guy, like literally standing on my watch. And like I was infuriated. I was about to go over there, but he was talking to this girl, and I thought it was gonna be weird. I don't like putting myself in, you know, awkward situations, so I just waited it out. And he was like getting close to her, like whispering in her ear and stuff. And I was like, okay, maybe they'll move and like, you know, actually sit down somewhere or something. But then all of a sudden, things go south, and he just punches this woman in the face. So I run over there and knock this guy out with one hit, because nobody manhandles a woman, not on my watch.
That is absolutely awful, but I love it.
I'm the king of bad jokes.
Oh man,
I'm proud of it.
amazing. Please tell that more often. I love that joke. That was great. Alright. So, long joke, nice story. On the topic of stories, what's your favorite story in a game?
I've recently been replaying Spider-Man on my PS4, and I do like the story for that. So, for everyone that's you know, PC gamer that maybe has a console or is thinking about getting a console, pick it up. But I have to say my favorite story overall is the story that backs Destiny 2. It's just it's great. I mean, it's an RPG, so it's, you know, really immersive, and there's a lot of grinding to it. But all of it, you know, follows the same story. It's basically like WoW, except, you know, it gives you the lore straight out. I mean, it's not like, you know, there's any sort of lore that you have to look up. I mean, it's all right there. You're playing it, you're learning it as you're going along. A lot easier, and I think they do a really good job with every expansion, just extending the story by a little bit each time. But yeah, I'd say Destiny 2 is my favorite game story of all time. But second to that would be Spider-Man.
Well, Bolton, this one's a little more of a personal question, so if you feel comfortable sharing, what is your real life job? What do you do for work?
I am a full-time student now. I did not have very much luck finding jobs, and finally decided that I wanted to go back to college. So at the moment, unemployed. I will be looking for a part-time job soon, but right now I'm focusing on school and, you know, getting accustomed to being back in college again. And so right now, that is my profession. And just to answer any questions about that, I am at a community college right now, doing a transfer program, and I will be transferring to pursue a major in mathematics.
Nice. Well, that's a great segue into our next question, which is, as a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up, and how did that change over time?
When I was real young, I thought about maybe wanting to be like a vet or something along those lines, because I love animals. I love working with animals. Animals love me for some reason. I've never had an issue with any animal, no matter how aggressive the owner claims the dog is, or cat is, or turtle. Yes, I've heard someone claim a turtle is aggressive. But eventually I got to a point where I didn't really want to do that, because I didn't want to be part of, kind of like the darker side of that. Like, I didn't want to, see animals that just like couldn't be saved. I thought that'd be heartbreaking. And so, as I progressed, I didn't really think about it until I got into high school, and I realized that one thing that I really wanted to do was become a teacher. I loved music. I loved math. I actually was a math tutor for a lot of my friends throughout high school. And then I kind of gave up on that for a long time until, like I said, recently when I started going back to college. It's still something I'd like to do at some point, but maybe a little bit further down the road. I would like to be a high school teacher for math at some point, and possibly even a college professor, just because I think it'd be cool to be called Professor. Or even better, Professor Bolton.
Professor Bolton. That's something I could get used to. Can I call you Professor on the servers once you're Professor?
Of course.
Oh, wonderful. Alright, Bolton. Well, that about does it for our time here today. Thank you all for listening to this episode of Meet the Leadership, and we will see you all next time.